Welcome to episode 2 of Sports Talk with me, Nicolo Manzo. Hope you guys really enjoyed the first episode last week where we delved into the world of college athletics. And now this week, we're going to delve into another really hard-hitting topic in the sports world. And I know that if you've ever watched any kind of a Sports Center this week or First Take or Undisputed or any of those shows, you know that I'm talking about the Ezekiel Elliott fiasco. And that's what we have to call it at this point because it's nothing short of a fiasco. And I'm going to take you a little bit through exactly how this whole chaos ensued over the past couple months in the NFL. And now that I think we've come to maybe an ending in the whole saga, I'll discuss about how this really damaged the NFL, Zeke himself, and fellow players in the NFL. All right, so let's give a little bit of a backstory first here. So before this season, Ezekiel Elliott, the star running back from the Cowboys, who had a tremendous rookie season last year, was handed a 6-game suspension from the NFL, which stemmed from an investigation in July 2016 involving a domestic violence claim against Elliott. So, I know what you're thinking, another domestic violence claim here in the NFL. Nobody wants to hear about that anymore. Nobody wants to see that because obviously it's such a terrible, terrible thing to have happen, especially when it's with an athlete that people look up to. But this time, there were no charges filed. And I shouldn't really say that surprisingly because a lot of times there aren't files officially charged or the charges aren't officially filed. But the NFL decided to suspend Zeke anyway based off of their personal conduct policy. Now, the suspension was for 6 games, so right off the bat, a lot of people felt it's a little heavy-handed because the NFL does have a precedent in the past of kind of going a little light with these kind of suspensions for off-the-field affairs, even though it is a serious issue. So Zeke obviously felt that it was worth it to appeal. Now, I'm not here to judge Zeke. I'm not here to say whether or not he did it, because obviously that's the biggest variable in this whole thing. Nobody knows whether or not he really did what he's accused of doing. But one thing I will say about him is that he's done things in the past that have displayed really questionable behavior. He didn't do himself any favors with me or with anybody else that watches him when he did things like the infamous video now at the St. Patrick's Day Parade last year where he decided that it was good to expose a woman's breast. That's not stuff that is going to look good for you when you're facing a domestic violence claim, something obviously, in this case, where he put his hands on a woman. So that's just something why I think a lot of people aren't really going to bat for him in this whole scenario. So here's the appeals process. Well, there was an immediate appeal by Zeke because by the NFL rules, you have to appeal almost immediately or the suspension takes shape and you have no way to fight it after that. So first of all, the NFL had to be thinking this is another suspension that wasn't enforced. Because you think back to Tom Brady a couple years ago with the whole Deflategate incident, and it took years for him to finally get suspended and serve his suspension for that incident. Now, the NFL couldn't be happy that this went on as long as it did and that it took as long as it did. It's a bad look for the players and the NFL because not only did Zeke catch a lot of grief for handling it the way he did, but it looks bad for the NFL because they look powerless. It looks bad for our court system, too, because the court system looks awful indecisive for someone that doesn't understand the law maybe as well as legal scholars do, which is the common man. It's a little confusing when you have an injunction and then you have a stay and then you have a stop and then you have let's put it back on again and then it happens all over again and then you go to a district court and you're in a court of appeals. It's very confusing. It's something that confuses almost everybody who was involved with it, and it's something that makes the court system look a little muddled and it causes people to lose a little faith in our judicial process. The NFL needs to address that because what's going to happen is you're going to have players who aren't afraid of consequences anymore. And then what happens is they're going to do whatever they want, and that's going to lead to further suspensions and further fiascos like the one that happened. Now, Zeke got his name dragged through the mud in this whole process as well, and that's what happens to any player that's going to decide to appeal a suspension that the NFL hands down. Now, one central point in this whole saga is, and this quote is heard everywhere, is Roger Goodell, the NFL commissioner, as the judge, jury, and executioner, that he has a unilateral power across all 3 of those areas where everything is concentrated in him. He decides the suspension, and no one else really has a say. Well, here's the problem with that argument from the players. There's such a thing as collective bargaining where you go to the table with the NFL, as the Players Association does every so often. I'm pretty sure it's set to happen again soon, so we all know that won't go smoothly because that's wishful thinking for that to happen. But they negotiated that Goodell have this power. So at the end of the day, you have to sign on the dotted line, and that's what they did because they wanted more money, and there was a trade-off involved there. So Goodell has this power now, and it's a little late now that you're in trouble to be complaining about this power. That's something you had to think about back then, not now. In the same respect, is it a little wrong that Goodell has all that power? Maybe, but it's something he's not going to give up because the players gave him that. And in this struggle between the NFL and the NFL Players Association, why would you cede ground to them? You just aren't going to do that. Now, appealing isn't always the right move, and that's something that the players have to understand here in this whole appeals process. Because Zeke decided to appeal and this appeal took so long, now he's missing extremely meaningful games for the Cowboys. There was a loss last week for the Cowboys, and in that loss, you could probably attribute part of that to Zeke. The idea that nothing's going to happen because this guy's out of the lineup is really incredible to me. I hear so many people tell me that they have such a superior line that's not going to matter. It matters who's running the ball. It absolutely matters. The man is an excellent running back. Off the field issues aside, he's a great running back. That's why the Cowboys want him so badly on the field. That's why Jerry Jones is fighting for him, because he knows what it means to his team. I mean, it may be because he thinks he's innocent, but nobody really knows what happened. He wants him on the field for football purposes. Now, everyone in this country is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. And this is something that I think is very important. But in the court of public opinion, it's the exact other way around. You're guilty until proven innocent in the minds of a lot of people. And I know Zeke is going through that. That immediately when these things come out, when you read a notification on your phone or you listen to a thing on SportsCenter, automatically we sympathize with the victim, and a lot of times for good reason. So he's immediately judged, and for that reason, and for reasons like I said before about the whole St. Patrick's Day parade and stuff like that, I mean, there's reason to believe that maybe this did happen. So as I like to end the show with pretty much every week, I want to offer a solution to this because I'm offering a lot of problems here. There's a lot of issues. So let's talk about what could we do to make this better for the NFL, for the players, for the fans, for everybody, for the people who are the victims of these alleged crimes. Next time the CBA is negotiated, which this is going to sound crazy because this never happens, but let's just hope we could go through this in a logical kind of well thought out way, even though I know that won't happen. The NFL should seek to make their suspensions more final. That way this stuff doesn't happen every time you issue a suspension to a player. They should seek to make it so that everything remains in-house. Obviously, you really probably can't take away the right to appeal, but make it so that it's in-house. Don't allow them to go to every single court in the United States of America and have it overturned. It gets a little ridiculous for everybody. It gets a little tiring. I'm tired of hearing about it every day. Now, the players, obviously, they're going to want to fight for something, and they should fight for an independent arbitrator. It's their fault that Roger Goodell has the power that he has because they decided that wasn't an important thing when they were negotiating the CBA. So for money, they gave up their right to what they consider as a fair appeal. And that's something that I can't really sympathize with them for because they made a decision. It was money or that, and they chose the money. So now they have to live with the causes of that, and everybody knows Goodell's not going to give that up. So fight for an independent arbitrator. NFL should look to make suspensions final. It's going to make everybody look better. The NFL looks like when something goes wrong under their personal conduct policy, they have the right to suspend somebody. It doesn't look like they're bringing down the hammer so much on these people after these botched suspensions in the past. That's something the NFL has to get better at, too, more consistent suspensions. And the players will have a right to be heard and have their side heard out without Goodell, who's the one making the decision, be a final decision on whether or not they're going to keep the suspension. Why would he overturn his own suspension? All right, everyone. Well, I hope this was really informative here today. I hope you enjoyed the second podcast. Want to wish everybody really quick happy Thanksgiving. Spend some time with family, friends, watch some football, eat some turkey. What more could you ask for? We'll see you next week on Sports Talk. Until next time, I'm Nicolo Manzo.